excited about the show and about everything that we're going to be talking about today. Hopefully, we'll help people in their daily lives to understand, some of the problems that the opposite sex are having with each other. So right now we're going to go with Dr. Coles. Dr. Coles, you're on the line.
Hi, yes, it's Dr. Viviana Coles here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. I sure appreciate it. Now, I'm going to, I want to give you some time to talk a little bit about everything that you do. I mean, it seems like you're really busy. I don't know how you have time being a mom with and having a married life to do everything that you're doing. But, probably the most interesting thing going on in your life right now is the Lifetime channel, the Married at First Sight show. Could you tell the audience about that a little bit?
Sure. Just so we get it kind of right, that is definitely the most interesting thing as far as what the public thinks. But what I'm doing behind closed doors at my private practice, Houston Relationship Therapy, is what really gets me up in the morning and out of the house. There isn't much that I want to do outside of the house because I love my home life, and I'm happily married for over 12 years to my husband, Bobby, and with our 2 kids. And so to get me out of the house is pretty exciting. It's got to be pretty exciting. And for sure, Lifetime has brought me on as an expert. There are 3 of us on the panel who help couples get matched and then married at first sight based off of compatibility and based off of the idea that love can grow and that it's not based off of physical attraction only. It's based off of common values and shared belief systems. And doing that on a very public scale, helping people navigate love, marriage, communication, conflict resolution on such a global scale as Lifetime has been super exciting for 2019, and it's proving to be even more exciting coming up in 2020. And it'll be interesting to see what everybody thinks about this following season, which is my 2nd season, but the show's 10th season, which is in Washington, D.C. So I'm really excited to have the ability to share my expertise. But, couples are just amazing. The things that they go through they can be so positive and so negative, but I truly believe that we can learn so much from our own mistakes, but also others' mistakes and triumph.
Well, I'm currently on the it says mylifetime.com site, and I have your picture up there under cast, but I was looking through some of these shows and, I didn't have time to look at all of them. Is there some shows that you're on there or which show do I go to?
So if you if you just Google Dr. Viviana Coles, Coles,
yep.
Married at First Sight, you'll be able to find the show. My very first season was this one that just finished this past year, and our next season starts January 1st of 2020. It is such a different way of looking at couples counseling and therapy. It is much more a coaching. It's a very direct approach. It's very advice-filled. So that's really exciting because I love telling people what to do.
Who doesn't?
And what not to do. And this is a great way to kind of get that out there because I learned so much from my private practice at Houston Relationship Therapy.
Right. So you're how do people get a hold of you? Is there a phone number or do they just go to the website?
Absolutely. Well, there's our 2 websites. My website is Dr. Viviana, DoctorViviana.com. The main line for both my practice, which is HoustonRelationshipTherapy.com, and mine is 1-800-913-9613. And we are available 7 days a week from 8:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. We have 2 locations here in the Houston area. We have one in Houston and one in Katy. But what's really exciting is that for 2020, we're going to be offering online coaching sessions. We do therapy within Texas because that's where our licenses are, but we're allowed to coach people across the globe for sexual issues, relationship issues, individual issues, and that's what we're really going to be focusing on in 2020.
Wow. Okay. Well, that,
On top of that,
that I mean,
as if that's not enough, on top of that, I'm currently writing 2 books, which I say currently because it's been happening for like the past 3 or 4 years. And
right.
my goal is to have it out as soon as possible, finally.
Yeah.
And then I also have some online programs because not everyone is in the Houston area and can get help face-to-face in office. So I wanted to offer them programs that I've been doing in my office for years now, for over 7 years, finally get them online to have people be able to get the help within their homes.
All right. So we go to drviviana.com. Okay. And it is pulling up Dr. Viviana. And it says the e-services. So, whoops, I got to turn off the sound. Excuse me. So you go to e-services, right?
Yes, there's e-services, and that's something that, you can always call us if you want to schedule that, or you can send in a request via email. We try to make it as easy as possible. We know that a lot of people may be looking on their they may be looking on the internet after they've had a long argument in the middle of the night, and they won't be comfortable calling, and we won't be answering, but they can surely reach out to us via email 24 hours a day.
Oh, that is super. That's super. Oh, well, Dr. Coles, do you mind we take a quick break here, and then we'll talk a little bit after the break?
I don't mind at all.
Okay, well, we'll talk to you in a few minutes then. I have a lot of questions about everything. I'm sure a lot of the audience has questions, and if the audience has any questions, please call in at 281-558-5738. Now, I was going to start off with one issue that I currently have, but I'm still a little fascinated with this show that you have called Married at First Sight. Can you tell the audience a little bit about how that works? I mean, just the sound of it sounds horrible. I mean, how can you expect 2 people to get together, meet, and like 10 minutes say, okay, I'll marry her or I'll marry him? I mean, how does it really work?
Well, it's actually even more radical than that. They have put their faith in us, the experts, and, me being a doctor of marriage and family therapy and a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified sex therapist. And we also have 2 other experts who are experts in their, respective fields as well. They put all of their faith in us to pick someone that we believe they will have a long-lasting, committed, happy, healthy relationship, marriage. And they have committed to that and committed to being married and committed to, growing in love with their partner. So it is pretty radical, and it's not for everyone. But for those of you out there who are dating these days, this might sound really great to not have to cut through the people who don't want to be committed, who aren't ready to take the next step, who aren't sure if they want to, be with someone for the rest of their lives. We cut through all that, and we work very, very hard as a team to pick people who are truly committed to being married and to moving on with the rest of their lives and growing a family at times. So this is, it's a huge leap of faith, and I'm definitely using a lot of the skills that I've learned in practice to help match these couples. We have 5 couples this coming season, and then they go through 8 weeks. And at the end of those 8 weeks, they've gone through assignments. They've gone through so many obstacles that are really about learning about each other and about how to be happily married. And at the end of those 8 weeks, they do get the decision whether or not they want to stay married or get a divorce. You
mean they get married first before the 8 weeks?
That's correct. They get married at first sight, Bryant.
Well, so do they have to? So do they all fill out a survey or a questionnaire before this all starts?
Yes, absolutely. They fill out multiple with over 400 questions. They go through background checks. They go through psychological evaluations. We go through home visits. We learn about them through their families. We try to do everything legally possible to get to know who these people are and what makes them tick. And it is an exhausting process. We just finished doing this in New Orleans. We're in the middle of it, actually, but we just finished doing the more arduous part of talking to, hundreds of candidates for this in New Orleans for season 11.
Wow.
And I mean, we really try to do our best. We really care about marriage. The three of us truly believe that marriage can be one of the most fulfilling statuses for a couple, especially when they both have shared values and shared beliefs. So it's pretty out there. It's not for everyone, but again, dating these days is really hard. And especially if you have kids or if you've had bad divorces, or if you're getting a little older and you have biological clock ticking, this is a good option, but it's not for everyone.
Well, how do people get on this show? How do they sign up to be part of it?
Well, there is an online casting application, but it's just a very initial, I think it's like 60 items, which doesn't sound like, it sounds like a lot, but compared to what the rest of it is. So they can fill that out. If they go to Married at First Sight, the website, they can check out where we're casting next. I don't know where the next season is other than New Orleans. I don't know where season 12 will be, but they can fill out that application from anywhere. And then if we go to their city and if they qualify, because you can't have had kids and you can't have been married before.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of limits it.
So yeah, I mean, it is very interesting, but it truly is about, at least for me, it's about helping to impart the expertise that I've gained through working with so many clients since 2003.
Okay. All right. Well, that is gosh, it sounds like a lot of work, but that sounds very interesting. I'll have to try to watch some of these shows. Try to tune in, but. If anyone in the audience has questions about the show, you can call in at 281-558-5738. But let's start off. I do have, as we talked about earlier, I want to kind of kick this, I guess, our discussion off about talking about myself. And then if some of the audience has some similar things or something else they would like to ask, they can call in and, we can talk about that. But, one thing I was going to talk about is, I'm 66 years old. I've been divorced for 6 years. I've been married twice. And, the first two ladies I was married to, they weren't Christians. So this time around, I just was looking at dating Christians, and the problem I had is that all the women out there that are Christians, they don't want to have anything to do with sex. They don't want to talk about sex, and they don't even like to kiss. And I think that's a big part of a marriage. Even though I'm older, it just seems like even though I'm older, I think women should be willing to talk about sex, and it should be some involvement. And so, Dr. Coles, just tell me, do I have a problem, or is there something I'm missing out there?
Certainly communicating about sexuality at any age is still difficult to do. I actually wouldn't anticipate someone calling in, sharing their name, and asking a sexual question on your show. But, we all have experiences or inexperience surrounding sexuality that we need help with at some point in time. Becoming a certified sex therapist, I realized, my goodness, this is not going to be this auxiliary part of my practice. The minute I put it on my business card, the calls and emails and clients just started flooding in because everyone needs help at some point.
Right.
Talking about sexuality openly is something that typically is modeled within the home. But when that doesn't happen, which is very, very common, you turn to the internet. And what's on the internet but a bunch of rubbish?
Yep.
And education can't happen when it's for entertainment purposes. So I think talking about it with your partner should always be something that is open, honest, and caring. And if you haven't experienced that in your previous relationships, certainly it sounds like you would want that in your future relationships. And that's where growth happens. Intimacy is what I'm all about. I want, not just for myself, but I want everyone to feel physically and emotionally connected to the person that they've decided to be with. And communication, as we all know, is the key to that. If you don't know what questions to ask, certainly we can help. There are professionals, there's online help now, especially through HoustonRelationshipTherapy.com. You can always ask. But simply put, if you're not talking about it, chances are you're not going to get what you want in the bedroom and or outside. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with you for wanting to have a physically intimate relationship. I would hope that in the future, when you find a lucky person to help, fulfill your life a little bit more. It sounds like you're a happy guy. But it's always nice to have a companion. I would hope that that's something that you talk to them about from the beginning. Hey, what are your thoughts on healthy sexuality, and what does that look like? That's actually a question that I ask everyone that is in front of me, and potential candidates for the show. Is I'll ask them, What does healthy sexuality look like for you within a married relationship?
Yeah. Well,
and if they can't even answer that, we got issues.
Yeah. Well, it's part of my show, I try to connect the dots from, how did this person get this way to, what did our government, what did the ruling elite do to start it all behind the scenes? But, when you talk about sex, I mean, I just look at my parents, I look at my grandparents, and I try to look back and imagine what it was back in the 1800s. And, there's back then, there's been a whole lot of things from the Bible that says you're not supposed to have pleasure, you're not supposed to do this or that, you're only supposed to have one sex partner your whole life, and so I'm thinking that from our Puritan ethics, that somehow the couples have gotten in their mind that sex is not supposed to be talked about. It's not supposed to be discussed. I mean, that's surely the way I was brought up. My mom would never talk about it. And somehow it's just this whole thing has been going on for centuries, from the beginning of time. I mean, it just seems like that's just a taboo to really talk about. Is that kind of your experience too, or what do you see?
We certainly are kind of messing with young people's minds when we say, sex is dirty, sex is naughty, pleasure will cause you to become obsessed, you'll, lose your job, you'll not have any friends. Oh, but then once you get married, everything will be fine. And you'll just magically have the most amazing sex life in order to procreate and stay together forever through 40, 50, 60 years of marriage.
Right.
That doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
It's a great ideal to have that all of a sudden you sign a piece of paper and you are witnessed by friends and family, and all of a sudden your sex life is going to be amazing. But for the vast majority of couples who are married, it's not something that happens overnight. It's something that develops. And if you feel like it's a no-fly zone for years and years leading up to becoming married, you're just getting ready. You're just stepping up to the gate whenever you get married, and then it takes years to get to a place that you actually feel like you understand each other's bodies and you understand what makes each other feel connected and close.
Right.
I think that it's important for parents, and I think it's important for friends and family to actually talk about how wonderful love can be and how physical touch is something that isn't just for parents to kids, and hugs and kisses, and that should be something we model for our kids, I believe.
Yeah.
And I do think that it does start in the home to have those conversations. And it's not one conversation. I'm always talking to parents about having the talk. It's not one talk. Yeah. If you're doing it once, you might as well just be, tossing it up into the wind and saying, let's see where it lands.
Yeah, right. I agree. Well, Dr. Coles, we're up against another break. Do you mind holding through on this break?
I don't mind at all.
Okay, well, thank you. We'll talk to you in a few minutes then. So she's an expert on the new show on Lifetime Channel that's called Married at First Sight. Dr. Coles, thank you for holding on. And, we were ending up talking right before the break, we were talking about parents and modeling the correct way to have a good relationship with their children. And I guess I'm even a little bit more extreme than that. I feel that, even at the age 5 and 6 and 7, that things should be talked about, explained, or shown to the kids, not to show them porn or anything like that. But I think they need to understand the anatomy of each of the sexes and what it's for. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, there are age-appropriate conversations and education to give kids. And we're so fortunate we have such good resources. That is something that we have on the internet that's worth checking out, are kind of guidelines for what to share and when, based off of the psychology and development of the brain and of the emotional system for kids. But again, it's multiple conversations, and it's using appropriate anatomy names. It's not, we don't call our elbow a ding ding. I mean, This is right. We need to treat our bodies with respect and not call different genitals different names. What message is that kind of subversively giving to our kids? And again, for some people, none of this really has bothered them, and they've been able to develop and have, long-lasting and happy, satisfying sexual relationships without any problem. But I see a lot of people who, the way that they were spoken to about sexuality and marriage and love has profoundly affected who they are as adults, and it's impeded on their ability to have satisfying, healthy relationships as adults. That's the problem here. For some people, you're listening and you're thinking, oh gosh, why, that's not an issue. My parents called it a wee-wee, and I have no problem. But for some, it has. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. It, I just look back at my own experiences growing up with my mom and dad, and my dad was always gone or out working or something. So I was around with my mom a lot, and she'd talk about, I've got to go see a doctor or something about my female parts, and that's the way it was discussed. It was like, you don't talk about it, you just don't even discuss it. And so that carries over into a marriage, is like, you don't talk about things. But, I got to believe, as a guy, a young guy, there's different fantasies that I would have. I would be, if I had a 2-day car ride, there'd be times I may be thinking some things I probably shouldn't be, and my wife would ask me, what am I thinking about, and I'm thinking, well, you don't really want to know, and so, there's those things that are going on, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, okay, if I have a fantasy, I should be sharing it with my wife, and if she has fantasies, she should share it with me. I mean, there's some things I guess you don't want to talk about, but would you agree, Dr. Coles, that there's each individual does have fantasies, and is it a good thing to talk about those things?
I'm a big fan of looking at sexuality and sexual activity as adult consensual play. So playing, via sharing fantasies or even having fantasies, I'm dealing with people every day who have low to too low to almost non-existent sexual desire. Fantasy sparks sexual desire. So I'm a big fan of having people fantasize. Now, that said, sometimes the type of fantasies that you're having and that you're nurturing and feeding within your brain can be so far-fetched or so inappropriate, meaning that they might be illegal or they might be,
Yep, no, I agree with that.
That you don't want to nurture those fantasies.
Yep.
I'm a big fan. If you're going to fantasize about something that could possibly happen that isn't going to hurt anybody else.
Sure.
And hurt, I mean by harm. Yep. That is a great way to keep your desire level going. That's why it's so important for men and women to find erotic literature that they can read. Sometimes they don't want to fantasize and come up with their own things via their own imagination. Sometimes they just need to read it. It's a really healthy way to spark desire, to spark arousal within their bodies. And if they're sharing it with their partner, or if they're, reading for 20 minutes together in the evenings, and that's one more way to take that conversation and outside of your head and into the bedroom.
So are you a fan of 50 Shades of Grey?
Well, not from a literary point of view, but I love that it got people talking about what's going on behind closed doors or what people wish was going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
It brought female sexuality and female desire to the forefront. And any time that something can get conversations going in the public, I love that because, I'm in a profession that most people don't share that they come and see me.
Right.
Those people aren't handing out my cards and saying, hey, you need a good sex therapist. I know of one. So, it's not the easiest thing to advertise or to market.
So much for referrals there, huh?
Exactly. Which is why doing something like this on your show and sharing what it is that we do and the type of issues that we can talk about is so important because otherwise people aren't sharing that over dinner.
Yep.
It's not something that's really easy to share. So I do think that something like 50 Shades, because it got the conversation going, both men and women, and all over the globe, that's a great thing.
Yep. I still haven't read the book. I guess I should get out there and read it. But, I have to admit that when I was, before I contacted you, I was out researching this theory, the avenue like of sex therapy and all that, and how we have so much dysfunction in marriages and relationships regarding sex. So, I was reading some of these different things, the unique sexual techniques that are involved. And it got me turned on. I was just reading. They talked about different games that couples could be playing because the problem I see is that, when you first get married as a young couple, you've been raised, each of you have been raised differently. Like for myself, my mom always had me going to church, and that's all I knew is just go to church. I didn't realize that people talked bad about each other and that all my young friends were all out having sex and getting drunk and doing all these different things. I wasn't doing that, so I was just kind of ignorant about the whole thing. But so to get married to somebody that was more worldly and had more experiences than me, it was a different experience, and I'm sure there's things that she wanted to tell me, but she sensed that I wasn't able to talk about that, and so I'm just going, well, how do couples when they first meet like that as they're younger, and then as they get older, how do they get to that point to open up and start talking to each other about those things? And in some of these things I read, it talked about different games you could do that would help. Are you a fan of different games that could bring some of this out and to help couples work together?
Yeah, we've got a lot of opportunities, but as far as games are concerned, but they're usually based off of humor, which is fine. It can kind of cut through the awkwardness of it. But I'm just a big fan of write 5 things that you're interested in and share them with your partner. It doesn't have to be anything special or that you go out for dinner and have purchased a deck of cards to talk about different topics. Yeah. Certainly that's an option, but just write down 5 things. Or there are books that you can find readily available that have all sorts of sexual activities and topics and exercises, and you can, kind of earmark like 5 different things and just say, hey, I'm interested in this. Let's read about it. Yeah. But you don't know what it is that's going to really spark your interest.
Right.
But talking about it openly will keep you out of trouble.
Well, one thing one game that they mentioned that's kind of caught my interest was that each couple is supposed to write down on postcards some fantasy that they have, and then literally I could probably have a stack that would be a foot tall, but then they said take that and separate it out between ones that you would like to experiment with your partner, and then you separate out the ones that you think it's a fantasy and you don't think you'd really want to do it, and then you share those cards with each other just to learn. Now, I would encourage any guy out there that has illegal or perverted things like of having sex with a child or wearing women's clothes is just don't put that down, sir. I mean, you don't want to just gross out your partner, but I thought that was an interesting way to do things in order to broach conversation between the couples. I mean, what do you think about that game, Dr. Coles?
Well, it's certainly, I think you and I, just coming from different perspectives, have different ideas about what perverted might look like.
Oh.
But I will say that if you're able to write down, 5 to 20 different fantasies, you're far ahead, and you probably don't even have the issue. What I'm talking about is people who are struggling to even understand what desire could look like or what pleasure for sexuality could look like or feel like. They're really struggling just for the basics.
Yeah.
The basics of saying, oh, my body is not just a vessel to get me around the world.
Yeah.
It's a way to spark something that will tie my partner and I together and forever. Because that's the thing. We're talking about monogamy like it's the easiest thing in the world. Not in our day and age.
Yep.
It is not the easiest thing.
Right.
And it takes a lot more work to keep us focused on each other, to keep us focused on our partners. And if you're going to plan on being with someone for over 2 years, you have to work at creating that spark on a daily basis. And people are not doing that, and they are divorcing over it.
Yep. I totally agree with that. Dr. Coles, we do have another break. I'm sorry, but would you mind holding on, or do you have time to hold on?
Let's keep going, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm enjoying it. So we'll take a short break here, and we'll talk a little bit more afterwards. Thank you. Welcome back, Texans. Thanks for holding through. We're here talking with Dr. Viviana Coles. She's with Houston Relationship Therapy, and also can be seen on Lifetime Channel for Married at First Sight. Dr. Coles, thank you for holding on. I'm the type of person that just likes to keep improving and getting and working on things and learning new things and constantly changing and trying to get to a different level than where I came from. Unfortunately, I see out there a lot of people, a lot of different opposite sex and same sex that they have a vision as to where they want to be at the age of 20. And once they feel they've hit that they're not going to change, they're not going to learn anything, they don't want to grow and improve. And I could see that those two would have definite troubles communicating on something like this. If one is dead set about not talking about sexual things in the marriage, I could see where that would be a problem. And I don't know how to overcome that. What do you suggest on that?
So sometimes it's not about talking verbally. If somebody is better about communicating through sharing articles online with their partner or reading something together or writing an email or writing a letter, those are the or maybe even artwork. And you don't have to communicate verbally in order to get a point across. Sometimes it's not about communicating verbally. Sometimes it's communicating non-verbally with your partner. Hey, I want you to lead the way. Show me what it is that you like. No judgment. I'll try anything. I'll give you 20 minutes. You show me what you want to do in the bedroom, and we'll go from there. Can't promise there won't be any laughing or snickering or, funny noises, but, right. I will do it because I care about you and I care about us, and I want you to be satisfied. And I want you to do it in a very comfortable way. But, it doesn't have to look any one way. Sometimes it's about sharing movies. Maybe there's an episode of a TV show that totally encompasses what it is that you've been feeling. Maybe there's a comedy routine online that you think, oh my goodness, this is so us. Talking about it and sharing it can look different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just know certain people that are just really stuck in their way and just hardcore that way, and there's just no moving them, no changing. I don't know how you reach those people. I even writing a letter to them or have them share. I just don't know if they even would do that. That's kind of what bothers me, I guess, out there.
Yeah, well, it might be about teaching them from the basics what empathy is. Put yourself in your partner's shoes. What do they know about you? What do you want them to know about you?
Right.
What are the barriers that you've set up to intimacy, both emotional and physical? How does your definition of a happy, healthy, satisfying marriage line up with those obstacles being there?
Right.
And what motivation does that person have to knock some of those down? And it might take years. But that's where therapy can really be helpful, because we can guide you in a pace that works for you and your partner. That's the hard part,
Right.
is navigating, talking about these things that are very difficult and challenging and can sometimes be traumatic in order to get you to a place that is healthier. Will it ever look like the people next door, the Joneses? No. It might be that the two of you come up and create your own satisfying intimacy, and it doesn't look like anybody else's. As long as it works for you, that's what is going to be best.
Yep. Well, that's true. I think that maybe the solution is just to seek counseling. That if you can get the other partner to go along with that, I think that would be a good option. And
well, even if the partner who's kind of stuck in their ways or more stuck in their ways isn't willing to come in, I always encourage the partner who is willing to come in so that they can then take back some information to their marriage and hopefully disseminate it and kind of have it kind of work for them in that way. Now, the other thing that I like to do is I will encourage the partner who's not really into it or who's not really a believer in therapy and doesn't really want to, feels hesitant, to come in for one session to consult by giving their perspective and their experience, because they are the expert in their marriage. One session, come in, let's talk. I'll ask you some questions. You're welcome to ask me any questions. And if after that first session together you don't want to come back, we'll check in with each other via your partner. But I will tell you, most people don't want to feel like an outsider in their marriage, and so they'll come back because they don't want to be left out.
Right. Well, the e-services that you have out there, is that designed for couples or just for one of the partners?
It's designed for either. You can have individuals or couples. We're fortunate enough to be able to have a HIPAA-compliant platform, which means that it is confidential and private, and it adheres to all of the laws, especially in Texas. We have very strict laws, thank goodness, about confidentiality and privacy. So, we can do via phone, we can do online with video counseling, and even email is possible as well. Now, it's not ideal to not have somebody in front of you. It's not my preference, but it certainly is a really viable option, especially nowadays with our connections being so clear and streaming being so clear. Right. It can feel like you're in the office. So that's really good.
Yeah. Well, you're making it so easy for people to seek counseling, and that's a good thing. I think that it's helpful. So tell me again, tell the audience again the best way to contact you. How do you prefer them to contact you?
Yeah, you're welcome to check out my website, drviviana.com. That's DoctorViviana.com. My private practice is Houston Relationship Therapy, and we have wonderful clinicians there that I've trained and supervised myself. They are doing amazing things for our community. They're also available for online sessions. And our phone number is 1-800-913-9613, and we are available pretty much 24/7. You can reach out to us to schedule an appointment, whether it's coaching or psychotherapy.
So how do you do 24/7? I mean, obviously you're not going to be manning the phone at midnight or so. How does that work?
No, you're right. We're not, but we do have access to email, and I have an amazing team at our front desk who will field everything and can send out emails, as soon as it's appropriate to reach someone. But but you can reach out. That's the thing. When you're going through these issues, you can feel really alone. And sometimes that can be on the weekends, it can be after hours, it can be in the middle of the night. And sometimes it's just putting it out there, hey, I really need a session that can make you feel like I can get through the next few hours, right, until it's appropriate to call. But getting unburdened by reaching out for help is something that you should not have to wait till 9 a.m., on a Monday to do,
Right.
you're welcome to always reach out to us, and we will reach back as soon as we can. But we also don't want to bother people, past 8:30 at night, so that probably won't happen. But yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible. Truly, it's about having a conversation. It isn't going to be like having a conversation with a friend, though, because we're trained professionals. So this isn't going to be one of those things that, oh, well, I could just talk to my sister about this.
Yeah.
No, unless she's a trained professional like we are. But no, I think that having a third party to share more objectively where we think that you could improve and what's working well, and then also what's not working well, it does wonders for marriages.
Sure.
We want marriages to last. We will be the biggest cheerleaders for healthy marriages. But when things aren't going well, we're going to let you know that too.
Yep.
And we're going to expect that if you're coming into our offices and seeking our help, that you're going to be taking our advice and really working on things in to have a healthy, respectful marriage. And that is satisfying. It's all about feeling emotionally and physically connected. That's what keeps marriages going. Different couples have different styles of doing that. So part of our struggle is figuring out if you have a style, why it's working and why it's not working, and then teasing it out and kind of recreating something that will last.
Right. Well, if you'd been around 30 years ago, you probably could have saved me from getting divorced the first time. So it's too bad you weren't around, but that's just the way it is. But it sounds like you have you offer a good service that's very valuable for people. But I got one question here to ask. I mean, this may make me look really bad, but let's just say your spouse is just really overweight and just loves to eat and just and you really wish that she or he would get in shape. I mean, how do you deal with something like that? I mean, it just seems like everything else that you try to do is a non-starter if your partner is really, really overweight.
If you equate being overweight with someone that is not attractive sexually, that's something that you have to share it with them, but not because you believe that they need to look good for you, more because you're concerned about what that is saying about their own psychology. So, for instance, if you are feeling like, wow, my partner has really let themselves go, they're kind of listless, they don't have a lot of energy, they're kind of boring, they always want to stay on the couch, they get winded, even from 5 minutes of playtime, sexually.
Yep.
You can say, like, look, what can we do to improve stamina, to improve pleasure, to improve your quality of life, to improve energy? And that may not look like losing 50 pounds. It may be like losing 10 because now all of a sudden you have more energy and you're loving life more.
Yep.
Most people won't say it's the weight that is the problem. It's what comes with it, the mindset behind it.
Right.
When did things change and why? Do you not care about our sex life anymore? Do you not care about being attractive to me physically? Do you not care about yourself and your health? That's a scary thing. We try to be around for each other for a really long time.
Right.
And being overweight can cause so many medical health issues that it can say something else other than just, oh, well, I don't care about the way that I look to you.
Yeah.
But you have to find an honest but tactful way to share that information. I would say come in. We got to talk about it. We'll come up with a game plan.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well, listen, we got to go. It's the end of the show. But Dr. Viviana Coles, appreciate you calling in. You can go to her website. It's doctor is spelled out DOCTOR, and then Viviana.com, drviviana.com, or go to the phone number 800-913-9613. Dr. Coles, thank you for calling in, and we look to have you back some other time. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks, Bryant. Take care.
All right, bye.
Cares. Here on KSEV, the voice of Texas.